Yeah,
That would have been live.
Go for it.
all right.
Shabbat Shalom to our longtime members, to our new members. Welcome to Shir Joy, to new member Shabbat. It's wonderful to see you all. We're in the Mishkan Tefillah. We're going to start on page 142 with Shalom Aleichem, welcoming some angels into our space. We'll move back to the beginning of the service. But to begin, Shalom Aleichem, we say, welcome to you. Come on in, bless us, be with us for Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Roachem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ananigun, Yelalai, lai, 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 lai. It's beautiful to hear your voices this evening, to see your faces. Thanks so much for all of you for being here. We have on the Bima tonight, as usual, Debbie Fire and Shira Kamen. As not usual, my son Ezra Shaban is playing guitar for us tonight. Thank you, thank you. Perhaps you were at our show on Saturday night. He was also on the stage then, but he's subbing for Lisa tonight. So it's a family affair this evening. Thanks, everyone. Let's move to page 128. Before we light candles, Yedid Nefesh is one of the Piyutim, the medieval poems that speaks Shabbat to me. All of these are evening prayers. Many of them are unique to Shabbat, but Yedid Nefesh in particular really just sings my Shabbos heart. Speaking of this image of a deer leaping to connection, leaping to be close to the eternal, to be close to something holy, to leap into this day that we carve out as different from every other day of the week, the middle of 128. don't know if any of you sat in horrible traffic to get here. I did. If you did, the early part of the service is an invitation to let it all go. The traffic rising up and floating away, it is behind us. All of this early part of the service is just to get us here. Whatever it is, you brought traffic, you brought work stress, you brought all of the last 5 days of the week, whatever it is that you had with you at the front doors, your invitation from Shabbat each and every week is to take it and leave it at the door and let it go because it is behind us. And all of these early Psalms, that's the only purpose. Lift your heart, increase the joy, leave what you don't need, welcome in what will make you feel more joyful, more present, more imagining of a world in which this could be how we are every day. So for candle lighting this evening, I don't think Andrea is in the room yet because, of course, she's the head of our membership committee until she's working. But I would love to invite, are there other membership committee people who are here? Thank you, Rebecca's here. Any membership committee folks who are here, I'd love to invite you to light candles. Max wants to come. Come on up, Max. You can light with Rebecca. Please do. And Sarah. Katie's going to hang out alone. They'll light. All right, go, Max. Yeah. They'll light. We'll gather the light. We'll sing. It's a waxy candle. There we go.
Takes a village.
Nice. Beautiful. Thank you. All right. We bring in the light. Achat, shtaim, shalosh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you so much. Shabbat shalom. Nicely done. On 132, at the bottom of the page, Or Zarua, perfect lead-in from candle lighting. Or is light, is sown for the righteous, for those of us who feel like we sit in our integrity in our actions. Right? Righteousness is about your insides matching your outsides, and that light emanates when you are living from a place of that integrity and light. The bottom of 132. And turning the page to 136. Mizmor LeDavid. Many psalms start with Mizmor LeDavid. Don't be fooled. A psalm of David. Mizmor LeDavid. If you go through the book of Psalms, there are many, many, many that start that way. And so we think maybe that means they were all written by King David. Not true. My understanding is my understanding of the Psalms from my own reading of them is that the Psalms speak beautifully to the different kind of tapestry of the human experience and to the colors of the character of David. And so Mizmor LeDavid depends on what is being told. If you read through the Psalms, you'll see that it's not the same David that's talked about in each one of the Psalms. It's quite fascinating. The book of Psalms is a very human, relatable book. This particular one, of course, talks about the majesty of the world, the majesty of creation, of cedars and water and trees and the incredible expanse of this world that we get to live in. This melody from Navat Tehillah in Jerusalem. Turning the page to 138, we move into the Chadodi. This melody that was coined by Elizabeth Paul as the Phantom of the Opera melody, because the verses, if you're a Phantom of the Opera fan, perhaps Lital is, sound a little bit like Phantom. So we'll see how you feel about it afterwards. 1, 2, 5, and 9 for the final verse. We'll rise. We'll turn to the back of the sanctuary, and we imagine as we bow for Bo'ikala, the most compassionate presence entering our space, giving us comfort. It's gonna be okay. Shabbos is meant to just give us a little reassurance that things are gonna be okay, whatever it is. We don't know exactly how it's gonna unfold, but we imagine entering into our space, some being, some presence, some feeling that everything's going to be okay. That's what we cultivate on Shabbat. 138 and 139. Ya la 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 chadodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Ya la 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 chadodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'litehillah. Ya la la ya la 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 l'chadodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likra Shabbat lemuven elcha. Ki mehor haberacha. Merosh mikedem mesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tehillah. Ya la 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 l'chadodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Yitoreri, Yivorech u'miori. Uri Shir daberi kevod Adonai ve'ikmilah. Ya la 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 l'chadodi. Ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Boi v'shalom ateret mala. Gam b'simcha u'b'tzala. Toch emunei am segula. Lo vichala. Lo vichala. Ya la la On page 140, you can have a seat just for one more psalm. Psalm 92, Mizmor Shir, the Yom HaShabbat, the psalm for the Shabbat day. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. We offer up praises on this day. As far as we know, as far as we can trace extremely far back, we believe that this psalm was actually offered in the temple in Jerusalem when it stood before the year 70 when it was destroyed. So these words are extremely old, and we have been saying them on Shabbos for thousands of years, just like we are today. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat Tov lehodot l'Adonai ulezamer l'shimcha hayom. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat Tov lehodot l'Adonai ulezamer l'shimcha hayom. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך היום. מזמור שיר ליום השבת. It's a melody by Cantor David Berger, a friend and colleague of mine. I read this Jan Richardson poem in the height of COVID, of the pandemic shutdown. It's called Blessing in the Chaos. And it was certainly chaos then, but sometimes a day or an hour can feel like chaos, or a week. It doesn't have to be a pandemic. It can just be life, can feel kind of chaotic. And that you need the ability in the swirling chaos and stress and whatever it is that's going on in your life to be able to find a place of grounding. So this is Blessing in the Chaos before we move into Chatzi Kaddish and into Marachu. To all that is chaotic in you, let there come silence. Let there be a calming of the clamoring, a stilling of the voices that have laid their claim on you, that have made their home in you, that go with you even to the holy places, but will not let you rest, will not let you hear your life with wholeness or feel the grace that fashioned you. Let what distracts you cease. Let what divides you cease. Let there come an end to what diminishes and demeans, and let depart all that keeps you in its cage. Let there be an opening into the quiet that lies beneath the chaos, where you find the peace you did not think possible and see what shimmers within the storm. On 144. יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה בעלמא דברך יראותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכונו
יומכון, ובחייתך בית ישראל, בעגלה, בעגלה, ובזמן קריב אמרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם עולם עמיה. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר, ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא, ואמרו, Amen. Please rise. Have a seat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim. At the top of 149, let's read together in English. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. 150. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael, amchavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת פעם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
On 158, we turn to Michamocha. Whenever we move into the book of Shmot, into the book of Exodus, I always feel the Michamocha calling, because it's coming in the Torah itself. We say it every day, we say it every Shabbat, but in the Torah, it's just a few weeks away. And so I start to feel the anticipation of the actual text being revealed in the scroll itself, this moment of liberation about which we sing over and over again every day as a reminder. We're not quite there yet. We're still in the narrow place, but it's coming. And 158.
חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל.
The last blessing before we move into the Amidah is the Hashkivenu. It's not unique to Shabbat. We do it every evening. It's a blessing asking for protection over the whole world, this idea of Sukkat Shalom, of a Sukkah of peace, this cover over the whole world for all human beings who need a shelter of peace, to bless us this evening and every evening on 160. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Hashkivenu Adonai Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. For the Amidah this evening, we'll do Adonai Sifatai Tiftach out loud together, and then we'll just go into silence. And silence for you this evening is whatever it's meant to be tonight. For some of us, it's the text and standing and saying every word. For other of us, it's closing the book and sitting down and getting quiet. Whatever you need to create out of this moment of silent reflection and prayer and meditation, perhaps, just a guess, this might be your only time this week that you're going to be quiet in a sanctuary and praying. So do with it what you will, what's good for you, not what's happening with your neighbor. We'll start together standing if you are able on 164. What's that? Rockin', yeah. טסים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. טסים לעולם. טסים לעולם. We're going to offer a Misha Berach before we learn a little bit of Torah. We're thinking this Shabbat of Iris Kaplan, Leslie McDonald, Liba Cooperman, Sandy Foreman, Dan Tootin, Irene and Martin Garfinkel, Judy Griffith, Joan Schwartz, Meir Ben Shoshana, Mordechai Yosef Ben Gita Yaakova, Mark Tornheim, Umberto Augustine, Ricky Schaller, David Schorsch, Cordelia Erickson Davis, Addie Heckler, Malka Bat Chaim, Hillel Ben Shmuel, and David Wiener. Are there other names of those in need of healing this evening? You can just call them out. We offer the words Anna, please, Elna, God, please, Refanala, heal them. The simplest prayer that Moses expresses on behalf of his sister Miriam. It's really a joy this evening to have brand new families in our community and founding families who are here together, creating this beautiful bridge from the very beginning to today. It's really a wonderful blessing to have such a span of people who belong to our community that are here this evening. Thank you so much all for being here.
So I'm going to do a little something different that I'm not sure I've ever done, which is I'm going to posit a theory about this week's Torah portion. And maybe on Tuesday, if you come to lunch and learn, you can tell me what you think. Or at the Oneg, we can talk about it. But I have a theory about some of the psychology that's going on in Moses in our Torah portion this week. So I'm going to throw it out there and see what people think. So last week we were in Parshat Shmot, in the first book of the first chapter, the first parsha of the book of Shmot, of Exodus. And we read about and talked extensively at our services last weekend about Moses' sister Miriam's bravery, and not only saving his life with her ingenuity, but also making it possible for his mother to nurse him. She, of course, leaves him in a basket in the water, and Pharaoh's daughter comes down to the water, and Miriam is hiding and watching. And when Pharaoh's daughter takes Moses out of the water, the unnamed baby at this moment, out of the water, Miriam steps forward, risking her own life, the life of her family, and says, "Do you want me to get someone to nurse your baby?" And Pharaoh's daughter says, "Please, and I'll actually pay her too." And so then Miriam takes this little brother of hers and she brings him back home to be able to be nursed by her mother. So weaning in biblical times happened at a much later date than it does, later age than it does today. 3, 4, 5 years old babies were nursed in those times. So that means that Moses, from the time he was 3 months old until he was 3, 4, or 5 years old, was at home with his family and being nursed by his own mother. So when that's done, the Torah says, "Vayigdal hayeled," and the child grew up, meaning he was weaned. And it's at that point that he's taken back into Pharaoh's palace. We don't know how old he is, but we know he's no longer nursing, and he's taken back into Pharaoh's palace. And then we jump ahead in time, and amazingly, the same language is used in the Torah. It says, "Vayigdal Moshe," and Moshe grew up. So Vayigdal hayeled, the little boy grew up, meaning he was weaned, and then it says, Vayigdal Moshe, when he grew up, and he goes out at that moment. This is all still last week, and he, for some reason we don't know why, feels called to walk out and go witness what's happening between the Egyptians and the Hebrews. And he, of course, famously witnesses an Egyptian beating one of his brethren, one of the slaves, and Moses kills the Egyptian, and he hides him in the sand. Something, we don't know what, calls him out of this life of privilege, this life of being an Egyptian prince, the only memory, conscious memory that we imagine that he has is this life in this fancy palace with Pharaoh's daughter and with Pharaoh and all of the Egyptian people around him. And he's called out of that, and he goes down and he sees the suffering of the Israelites, the suffering of our people. So the first growing up happens when he's weaned, and the second growing up happens when he feels this sense of responsibility to step outside of his privilege and go out into the greater world to be able to do something about it. I've always wondered what it was that called Moses out of the palace. As far as we know, he knew nothing consciously other than he was an Egyptian prince. He was a grown man. He was living in luxury. He doesn't know anything about his history in his conscious mind, but there's something in him that remembers that there's a different part of his identity that he has forgotten that's buried somewhere within him. So here's my theory. My theory is based on attachment theory. That Moses was deeply attached to his mother and to his foundational family, to the Jewish people, to his family, because in those early years, he was cradled and cared for. We don't know anything about it, but we know that he was home with his family and he was nursed and then weaned by his own mother. So attachment theory is an evolutionary system that motivates a child to seek proximity to parents and to establish a connection with them. And it's fascinating because it happens at the time when you are utterly dependent on your family, at this time when you cannot go out and find food and shelter and sustenance for yourself when you're a baby, and at a time that you don't actually remember any of it. You don't consciously remember what happens in the years 1 and 2 of your life, but that's when the deepest attaching happens between you and your mother, you and your family of origin. So I was listening, this is where the source of this theory is. I was listening to a podcast that was interviewing this famous psychologist, Dr. Becky. I'm sure some of you have heard of Dr. Becky. And she says that we are born 25% wired, that all of the wiring is already 25% in place in our minds, in our bodies. Everything in us is already, we come out into the world 25% wired, and by the time we're 3, we're 75% wired. 75% is established within us, and most of us cannot remember a single thing from the time we're 3 to newborn. So the majority of our internal wiring happens at a time that we actually can't remember it. But that doesn't mean that it's not in our bodies still. And that's why these years of newborn to 3 and the preschool years, so how many parents are like, ugh, I just had a terrible parenting day, but whew, good thing they're not going to remember it. We remember. Somewhere in us, we remember, even if we don't remember it here, we remember it in our wiring, and by 3, we 75% remember it. Your wiring remembers and will come up in day-to-day life for many years to come, even if you don't consciously remember. The landscape of your being remembers those early days. So I wonder if this is why Moses felt the plight of his fellow people. He didn't literally remember his life before he was 3, but my belief currently, we'll see if it changes next week, was that he was so securely attached to his family and to his mother who nursed him that there was something when he went out and saw an Egyptian that was beating a Hebrew, it ignited something in his earliest memory that made him act in response. It wasn't just because he was a good person. It wasn't just because he saw violence and wanted to act on it. There was something that was familiar that he sensed. There was something unconscious that moved him to kill the Egyptian. And it reminds me, my marvelous therapist says this great phrase, if it's hysterical, it's historical. So if you have something, some action of yours that feels like this is not matching the reality that I'm experiencing, it's because it's calling upon something way historical and old that you actually can't even remember, but I have found it to be true in my own life. If it's hysterical, it's historical. And I think what happened to Moses in that moment was a historical thing. That he comes out and he sees the Egyptian beating this Hebrew, and something hysterical happens in him, and he flashes and he kills this Egyptian. So the next part of my theory is that he is securely attached to his mother, but not in fact securely attached to God. And that's where this beautiful and complex relationship between God and Moses is established. And it happens last week and this week and moving forward in the Torah. So Va'era, our Torah portion this week, opens with a conversation between Moses and God. Last week's portion ended with Moses getting frustrated with God. So the very end of Shemot says, God, why did you bring harm upon this people? He's come to Pharaoh. Nothing good has come of it. In fact, every time he comes forward, Pharaoh makes it worse for the Israelites. So Moses is like, what is happening? You told me I'm supposed to be brave, go and talk to Pharaoh, and the only thing that's happening is worse things are happening to these people. Why did you send me, he says. Ever since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has dealt worse with this people, and you have not delivered your people. Moses is scared and he's frustrated. So Va'era today opens with a continuation of this conversation. God spoke to Moses saying to him, I am the Lord, which is written as Yud-He Vav-He. I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai, not as Yud-He Vav-He, as El Shaddai, but I did not make myself known to them by my name. They knew me as El Shaddai, but you, who saw me in the burning bush, you that I have a different relationship with, you get to know me by a different name. So why does God distinguish between these two names at this time? El Shaddai is a reference to the name that God uses when God's talking to Abraham right before God commands Abraham to circumcise himself and all of the boys. That God says, this is going to be the sign of my covenant. I am El Shaddai. That's my name. So Midrash Tanchuma imagines this name of God, El Shaddai, to mean, and if there are Hebrew speakers in the room, you'll understand this, El, God, Shaddai. God that says, enough. El Shaddai. This Midrash imagines that God says, enough of humanity not having a relationship with me, enough of people not wanting to be in a covenantal relationship with me. That's the name that I have to give to Abraham and to Isaac and Jacob, is El Shaddai, the God who has had enough and who is seeking a connection, who's like, enough of that past, we're moving into the future. This is the God that's standing with the ancestors in Genesis. But now we get into Exodus, and we get into Moses, who not only remembers the connection that he has with his mother, but the thing about that, these early memories, you don't just remember the good stuff, you also remember the bad stuff. So he also has the trauma of his upbringing in his body. And so God can't come to Moses as El Shaddai. That's not going to work. That figure is not going to be the one that Moses wants to be in relationship with. So remember, when Moses meets God for the first time at the burning bush, Moses says, what's your name? And God says, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. I will be what I will be. My name is, I am going to be in relationship with you. And even more so, as we talked about last week at Nishma, then God says, but when you talk to the people, my name is Ehyeh. I am beingness. I am presence. I am connection. I am the being that's going to be with you. And God says, do you need reassurance from me? The reassurance is, I'm going to be with you. As simple as that. My name is, I'm not going to leave your side. You can count on me. I'm not going to abandon you. That whatever that rift happened within you, Moshe, that has caused you to have so much pain, I'm here to heal it. And El Shaddai is not the one who can heal it. But Yud-He Vav-He, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, is the one who can go into Moses' heart and be the presence that Moses needs. Of course, Moses doesn't comfort easily. As we know, Parsha after Parsha, he keeps coming back, doubting, questioning. It's not me. This isn't working. How are we supposed to be in relationship with each other? It's as if God is saying, just as you were able to be nursed and raised in your own home so that your relationship with your people was secure, so too can you be reassured by the name I'm giving you and by the intimacy of the connection that I'm giving you, that I'm going to be here too. Just like that relationship you had with your own mother, I'm going to be that presence for you too by giving you this name and this beautiful connection that we have with each other. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. If it was easy, God would be like, poof, free. That didn't happen. That's not the message from God. The message is, when things are really, really hard, just like you hope if you have a securely attached relationship with a parent early on, that when things are hard, they're with you. That's the best you can get. And God says, when things are hard, I'm going to be with you too. You didn't get that from me. That's not the God of your ancestors, but that's the God of me now moving forward. So my blessing is this for all of us this evening. We were all children. Not all of us are parents, but we were all children. None of us was raised by a perfect human being. None of us is raising children perfectly. And even the most securely attached among us struggle as adults with our intimate relationships for various reasons. But the lesson from our Torah portion this week is that the hard wiring that we're done when we're little, before we can even remember anything, and that's 75% until we're 3, can be repaired and can be comforted by other beings, by people, by God coming in late in Moshe's life and saying, I'm here to help repair those broken pieces within you. God reminds Moshe that he's not alone, that even as his job is terrifying and that he doesn't want to do it, that he's not alone in doing it. So my hope is that we all remember, no matter our upbringing, no matter how difficult or painful our life circumstances may be today, that we too are not alone. That Ehyeh is the name that God tells Moses to relay to the Israelites, and that is the name that we too are meant to lean into. Not a God that's going to fix everything, but that a God that's going to come down and be present with us as often as we need, as we evolve, and that's a being that we can securely attach to, so that as we travel through all of the difficult stages of life, we know that we're not alone as we go. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to move into Aleinu on page 586, if you would please rise. The other Torah is here, don't worry. Can you move your chair? It's in the other ark. I forgot to get it back from Nishma. Don't worry. Aleinu neshabeach la'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים בפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו Please be seated. On page 598. We're in the period of Shloshim for Lauren Kaplan and Rosemary Chappelle. It's the Yartzeit this Shabbat of Evelyn Blinder, Milton Blink, Leo Blitzstein, Bernard Blumberg, Jackie Boyd, Daniel H. Chavez, Rosemary Cooper, Harry Denwitt, Al Gould, Alan Greenberg, Ray Israel, Matilda Kursrock, Anne Frankel Laporte, Rosalind Levy, Shirley Lipman, Julie Mann, John Martin,
Elaine Moskowitz, Natalie L. Norwick, Shirley Parker, Alfred Rodney, Eunice Rosenthal, Mo Rosenthal, Charles Samuel, Charles Schwartz, Molly Weiss-Tanner, and Frida Taylor. Are there other names for Kaddish this evening? If you are in mourning or observing a yard site, I invite you to rise first. If it's your custom to rise along with the mourners, I invite you to do so. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv imru, Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehi shalama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. Please be seated. Our President, David Ratner, has our announcements this evening.
Shabbat Shalom. Rabbi, you give me a lot of good material. First of all, I was devastated to learn that David didn't write all the Psalms. I mean, my parents have told me from when I was named after the guy who wrote all the Psalms. But then you talk about Jewish kids, Jewish boys, and their mothers. I mean, that's no shock. There's a big attachment there. And as far as alternate theories at Lunch and Learn, you're going to hear them from me if you come on Tuesday like you do every Tuesday. But anyway, here are the announcements. As we set our intentions for the new year, we hope that you will come to an amazing meditation with Jerry Levitas on Friday, January 27th at 1 p.m. on Zoom. To help us start the new year, the theme of the meditation for this series will center around moving forward with a purpose. Is there anyone here who doesn't like a sale? What a question. So, for tonight and one night only, gala tickets that are priced at $150 a ticket are on sale for $125 early bird pricing. But you have to sign up tonight, and I have the clipboard for sign-ups. I will be in the Oneg, and I will be standing at the door where people are trying to get out. So, finally, Shabbat on the Block is back on Friday, March 10th. Watch your email to sign up for our annual Shabbat dinner with your neighbors and friends in your home or theirs. Be a host, be a guest, sign up, and we will pair you with a group near you to enjoy this potluck Shabbat dinner in your neighborhood. And of course, watch your weekly email for more information for all the wonderful events we have at CBT. And new members, welcome to our house. We love you as family.
Thank you, David. Ose Shalom. Again. It was a little fast. I wasn't ready. Try again. Again. Ose Shalom Mirama. Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Ose Shalom Mirama. Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Ose Shalom Mirama. Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al ha'olam. Oseh Shalom b'rovav. Hu yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom b'rovav. Hu yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom b'rovav. Hu yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kol ha'olam. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kol ha'olam. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.